You chilling. So these next two poets, right? So we had some OGs. I'm gonna keep calling them that. We had some OGs, some people that paved the way before myself, and a lot of these newer poetry scenes, poets, curators, and the open mic spaces kind of stepped out onto this scene, right? Started to jump into this community. And these next two that we're bringing up, still been in it for a little bit, but much newer. But I wanted to focus on the fact that, well, first we're gonna introduce them. We're gonna bring them up. So first I'm gonna bring up Tsleeveless. If you're familiar, this guy. I'm gonna bring up the next one too, and then I'm gonna talk about my perception on y'all, just to have fun with it. And then his next poet, artist, like visual artist, dog lover of these little cute dogs that I tried to get one time. I'm glad I didn't, because then I would have had to get that joint away. I'm glad that didn't ever happen. But just a phenomenal person, phenomenal being, dope poet. Let's make some noise, y'all, for Ciara Chantelle. Is everybody familiar? Of course, because who isn't? I could probably go to 20 cities across the country and say, do you know these faces? And people are going to say yes. So the reason, one of the many reasons I pulled both of these people onto this panel for this segment is because we've had 13 posts go viral, right? And viral, like, million plus views, which is phenomenal. These two specifically, probably hundreds of millions of views across, like, people just reposting, like, pages with, you know what I mean, 1 million followers, 400,000, and like them getting tens of millions of followers views on each video that's getting posted, right? Which is incredible. If you are an artist, a creative, regardless if you want to admit it or not, you want that viral, right? Like, because that could do a lot. It makes you feel good, right? It does kind of stamp and validate, like, oh, okay, I got something, but it also can absolutely transform your life. And I'm hoping that it did for them. But yeah, so before we jump in and I start asking y'all a bunch of questions, just introduce yourselves for, the people who are under the rock that might not know who y'all are, and then just share a little bit about, what you do.
Try now. Oh, where? Okay. Why would I say try now? That's weird. All right. What's up, y'all? I'm Ciara Chantelle. Thanks for being here. Thank you, Lewis, Voices in Power. I'm a spoken word artist, visual artist also. Like Lewis said, I'm also a dog mom and an animal advocate. I love me some animals, some puppies. But yeah, I mostly do work pertaining to the inner child, mental health stability, and ultimately just being yourself in a world where you have parents, partners, families, jobs, and so forth telling you to be somebody else. So I'm all for making sure your cup is filled before you pour into anybody else's.
Gems dropped in an intro.
What up, y'all? My name is Tsleeveless. I'm a poet from South Jersey. And before I do the whole introduction, I just want to
You don't even go here. I'm sorry.
Here she go. She been hating since I got here, y'all. I just met her. This is crazy. I've been a fan, though. But I just wanted to say how crazy it is that we're even here right now at a poetry panel. I've been to a lot of open mics and a lot of events, and people come to these joints for a lot of different reasons. And we're all here because we knew we came here to receive information from people and to receive gems and to be educated. So I think that's one of the wildest things that y'all popped out to this, knowing exactly what it was. It's not one of them wild turn-up joints. You came to get some information. So I think that's something to clap it up for. That's a crazy thing. It's my first time ever doing something like this, and it's extremely informative. our last three guests. Man, I've taken notes as an understatement, dog. But yeah, my name is Tsleeveless. I'm an artist from South Jersey. I've been writing since the second grade. I just came to Philly last year performing, so it's been about a year and like 2 months maybe, which is insane. And the whole reason for that is because of this man right here. I used to perform very often. Yeah, I always got to bring it up. You know what I'm about to say. You know what I'm about to say. I used to always perform at this little joint in South Jersey called Miss Silly's Blues. And I realized I had this extreme, like deep, intense love for poetry when I was competing against Lewis. And he
I just stumbled upon. I didn't come to compete. I just was there.
Cap, wave cap, graduation cap, all cap. Anyway, he came and blew me out the water in this competition. Like it wasn't even close. Like I came second, but the gap between second and first was so ridiculous, and I loved it. I loved the feeling of absolute defeat. I'm not gonna lie. And since then, I've had this drive and this desire to do poetry because I had never been impacted by a poem in that way since Lewis had done it. And he's been a nonstop encouraging force in my life. And obviously, we can all see where that has gotten me just off the strength of somebody believing in me. Because I say it all the time, Lewis and this community believed in me way before I believed in me. You know, I absolutely did not see in the slightest bit all the things people saw in me. And obviously, I'm an artist still. Sometimes I still struggle with the person in the mirror, but I have this ridiculously loving community that's always reminding me about what it all is. So that's me, y'all.
Before I called him up, I met him in the back. I was like, "Look, bro, I'm about to cash app you this $27 and just like tell this lie." But now, when I seen him there, I didn't come to compete. I just came chilling, and it was a competition. I'm like, "All right, we could do it." And you know what's crazy though? I think what was it, like $200? I almost gave you the $200 because it was my first time seeing him, huh? Almost. But I just had my son. So I was like $200 multiplied by X amount of dollars per pack of Pamper. That could cover some stuff. And yeah, but like phenomenal writer. I mean, both pen games, right? And something is not a question that I originally wanted to share, but it was something that I realized in the shower. Random. I know y'all be getting ideas in the shower. Both of your pieces that are the most viral pieces we have, not just on our platform, but got to like go into other platforms as well, are both around mental health, right? What do you feel like that communicates about our generation and the viewers?
Dude, don't get me started. All right.
We here. This is what we're doing.
So in my work, right, I make it a huge point to tell people that I'm with and I'm performing with, like, be who you are, because all these people who are in this room right now, when they go home and they close that door, they are themselves, right? They are who they truly are. So you need to give yourself that same grace. In terms of the piece that went viral, so I was really going through I wrote that piece 4 years ago. 4 years ago, right? And I was going through a real woe is me kind of stage. And I just was real angry at the world. So it almost was like my higher self kind of wrote that piece, right? It was kind of like, yo, just get yourself together. What are you doing? Why are you complaining? Why are you blaming? Why are you pointing the finger? But it just was interesting because if you ask anybody around you, everybody's happy right now. Everybody got money. Everybody is just, living life, and things are all just like sunshine. And that's, don't get me wrong, social media is a beautiful place, but like we see those things and we get caught up in like, oh, my issues, my problems, my woes are, it's the end of the world. Ain't nobody else going through this. And that's not the case at all. Most of the time, so many people around you are going through that exact same thing, but they're not going to say nothing out of fear of whatever reason. So the fact that it's not even so much the amount of numbers that video has gotten, but the messages are insane, because I know at some point when I was in life, and I just was like, yo, maybe not being here would be better than being here. Maybe like just not going through this, or just like taking the easy way out would be like just so much better. But it's an incredible thing when now there's people who are reaching out and they're going, yo, that saved my life. Yeah. That is crazy to me, and that outweighs everything else, because it's just like, that's what I needed at that time. It's just like a full circle kind of moment. So even if you negate the amount of followers or the views, it's that person in Africa right now, in Europe right now, someone who just hit me in Haiti, or someone who just hit me in a city that I didn't even know existed, and was just like, yo, fam, thank you for being vulnerable enough to put this out. And it's just like, oh wow, all I had to do is just keep it a bean. All I had to do was just say, hey, I'm having a hard time right now. No, I'm not okay. And yes, I need a little bit of help. So it's so dope. I know you guys are familiar with Will Toms here at Rec Philly. At some point, he was just really instrumental in helping me find my target audience. And I remember just being so like hell-bent on finding that, like, who is eccentric, who thinks out of the box, who is gonna like the things that I like without judgment. And then I posted that video, Voices in Power reposted it, and now there's over 130,000 people who think and feel the exact same way that I do, and only God and Voices in Power can do that. So yeah.
Yeah, see, there's a few poets that they piece went viral on our platform, collectively, right? Because we invite as a collaborator, so that both of us are on there. But that following went crazy. See, I think when that joint went up, it was at like 12, 13?
Fam, when it started, I was at 12. I think I was at 12.3 when it started.
12,000 followers. Like, and you at what?
137,000.
137,000 followers.
On Instagram.
On Instagram. Yeah. It's like when you go outside, you're going to see 100,000 people just like. On Instagram, and I was just like, that joint is crazy. And just in a couple months.
Yeah,
right, like
December. Like I think we started like a week before Christmas, and every time I think it's gonna slow down, a Kardashian or somebody reposted, and I'm like, whoa, buddy, here go a whole
Khloe Kardashian. Yeah, like just insane. And your joint jumped too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, 100%.
So speak on right, like it going viral. Well, you ain't touched on that question, the first one, right? You gonna touch? Yeah. Go ahead.
So, what Lewis had asked earlier about, what does it communicate to pretty much the world that pieces centered around mental health went as crazy as they did? And I think it communicates, something very, very serious, is that, mental health is one of the most widely debated, yet still somehow one of the most polarizing conversations you can have at any given time because of how, widely misunderstood it is. And that is because so many people have such wildly different definitions of what's, basically what stable mental health is and what it takes to achieve that. And my piece in particular, it started as a concept on Instagram, and it was the craziest thing to me because at the point in my life when I had first started writing it, I was just going through a lot of things that made me feel like I was just feeling invisible all over again. And, I had dealt with this feeling of just being unimportant for a very large part of my life. And I just wanted to write a piece, not so much about me or my life at all. I don't write a lot of pieces anymore that have anything to do with my life. It's just a broad topic in general, which is what Teach a Boy to Cry is men's mental health in general. And, it's a piece that's not even particularly designed to make you feel better about anything. It's just to bring clarity to something that is brutally honest and like a brutal reality, and just it is what it is type poem. And that type of perspective, put poetically, just went crazy because, in my opinion, it's something that a lot of people on a very large scale can accept as true. And but it's very unspoken. It's hard to talk about. It's hard to understand, and it's frustrating. You know, there's nothing I don't think in the world more frustrating than just not having identity or a place in this world. You know, it's devastating, it's defeating, it's isolating, and it perforates everything, every aspect of your life, all the time. I say it all the time. All we really have before anything else is your mental health. You know, I have an uncle who is a W amputee, but he has family and us around him that are always pouring into him, and he loves his life. There are people that are completely able-bodied that might not be here tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Your health, your financial status, all of that is second, third, fourth, fifth behind your mental state. And so, in my opinion, to answer Lewis's question, why, you know, these pieces in particular went so crazy is because it's the most necessary stuff. You know, if your mental health is number one, then it is one of the most important things to always talk about. And as artists, it's our job to push important messages.
Yeah. A lot of the other pieces that went viral are the nasty Jones, and we know why they do numbers. But the crazy thing about your piece, so it's our most viewed piece on YouTube, and that comment section, the comment section on that video filled with men supporting other men who feel broken, who feel lost, who feel unseen or undervalued is it really should be like a case study on that. The comments are crazy from people all over the world. It's our biggest video on there, and it's thousands and thousands of comments, and people literally coming around one another. A lot of the pieces, sometimes I can see, like, you know, some of the hate comes in, especially on YouTube, because YouTube, it kind of gets in front of people who just want to, like, throw shade. But that piece is, the comments under there, it just, like, blows my mind sometimes, and it's so beautiful. And I think E had mentioned, like, you know, there's a lot of people who don't know what poetry is. All those people in that comment, they probably never seen poetry before. But that medium is what touched them in a way where it's like, oh man, I'm going through this, I'm not alone. And you see people in there, like, literally, like C said too, like, yo, you saved my life. Like, hearing this piece saved my life. And as a poet, and I'm sure many of us have, and in whatever field you in, right? Like, when you really living in your purpose and you really doing this, you're gonna impact someone where it feels like you saved them in some capacity. And that thing is like nothing else. So with those pieces, right, with y'all pages going viral, with this followers coming in, how has it changed the way that you're now able to, like, take poetry and make it a career?
So speaking of making poetry a career, this past Sunday, y'all, I made the most reckless decision in my entire life, but the most gratifying decision of my entire life as well. I left my job, cold turkey.
Yeah. To do what?
I hired myself to be a full-time creative artist. Yeah. So one of my new sayings is going to be, you know, because I notice people always got things that they say when they get on stage. I'm not that cool yet. But what I'm going to start saying is how I'm the CEO of my life now, you know. So as far as the impact in my career, it's jump-started it. It's watered it entirely. And I have such an overwhelming amount of support from so many people from all over the world now, literally, that I can't not win. I can't lose, you know, it's just not possible.
Yeah.
You feel me? And it's entirely because I have leaned into a community that was given to me because of what I gave it first. And I say this all the time.
Ooh, that's a gem. That's good.
So what I say is, you know, if you have a talent, you have to train it daily, because the point of having a gift is to give it away. So
these all gotta be like bumper stickers.
So now that I'm really out here for real, um, I have an unlimited. I've always had this ridiculously creative mind, and poetry and putting words together has just been one of the most natural things to me since birth. Since I literally knew how to put words on a page. There's one poem, Ticonderoga, where I kind of get into that a little bit. Yeah, I know, bro, I know. But it's since I've been able to put words on a page, I've absolutely fallen in love with it because of how you're able to affect people in a very different way. So many people hear poetry that I've done and that other people have done, and the first thing they'll say is, "I don't ever listen to poetry," but you know what I'm saying? And it's one of them polarizing compliments, I guess, compliment that you receive, and it's like gratifying and at the same time a little bit off-putting, because it's like it almost feels backhanded, yes, but at the same time it's not. It's weird. Like I still don't know how to define that.
Forgive them, Father, for they do not know. Like, that's what it is. Like, they just don't know.
It is like, thank you. But with that being said, it's like, if I'm in that position where I can not only bring light to poetry as a whole, but to whatever type of brand I'm about to start creating, y'all, because I'm clueless as anything right now. I'm gonna be completely honest. This is day zero, basically. This is week zero of me being a full-time artist. But if I'm in that position, this unique position, where I have a community backing me, where I have the ability to affect others in this way, then I'm gonna chase it, y'all. Because you get this one life. I say this all the time. You get one life, but if you do it right, one is enough. One is
that's
enough.
another.
So, I've spent so much of my life, y'all, and I'm not about to get emotional up here, all right? But I've spent so much of my life giving my time and energy to things that do not matter, people that do not appreciate me, places that don't care if I show up the next day, organizations where I am literally just a number in a system that is so replaceable, it's crazy. And I could not sleep for years knowing I was viewed as so expendable. And this community has given me more affirmation. I have enough affirmation in this life to live 10 lives. And I'm gonna do that justice, y'all.
So you can answer the question next, but at the end of the night, we all just gonna hug each other. All right, we're just gonna do like a giant hug.
Could you repeat the question?
What was my question?
How did this affect
Yeah, so like with the followers coming in, like how did it take what you're doing and like really mold a career out of it?
Word. So this just happened, right? So it just happened a couple weeks ago. To be honest, so pretty much like T, a little bit like T, actually. I'm sending you love. I'm really proud of you. I'm really proud of you. About right before, 2-3 months before COVID hit, I quit my job working for the school district. I had no idea, obviously, COVID was gonna hit, but I was well prepared to take my poetry full time. I'm talking about like grind as hard as I needed to. And obviously it didn't go that way. I counted a lot on a lot of open mics and just events, and that wasn't the case. We weren't allowed out. We couldn't be around people. We had the mask on, so forth. But what really happened during that time was it really allowed me to find my own authenticity, my own like cliche kind of. What is it that I excelled in, and how can I just focus on that more so? Whereas when I was growing up, I wanted to be the best poet on the planet Earth to everybody. To everybody in this room, I wanted to be your favorite poet. And you come to realize that that's not the case. Everybody isn't for everybody, and that's absolutely okay. It actually works better that way. You understand? So I spent a lot of time after COVID just trying to perfect what it is that I was trying to do full time. And what ended up happening when mind you, I'm a very self-sufficient woman, right? So I was raised to be very, independent. You can do things yourself. You don't cry. That's very weak. And the world is a tough place. So you have to do everything yourself. So I address my career that way too. I can do everything myself. I will write my poems, I will memorize them, I will perform them, I will be my own manager, my own accountant, my own assistant, my own best friend, my own doctor, my own parent, my own lover. I'm gonna do all of that myself. I don't need nobody to do it for me. And I'm in the place I'm in right now because somebody else did something for me. Community did something for me, something that I could not do myself. I've been writing poetry, I've been performing for a little over 10 years now. In my eyes, this would have happened on my own, by myself. At 15, 16, I would have thought all of this was of my doing, but that hasn't been the case at all. So in these past couple weeks, in these past couple months, I've been able to, one, lean into a community that I never had before. I've been given the opportunity to trust other people who ultimately, genuinely want to be there for you. And I've also had the opportunity to dive back into why I started this. You often see on social media, people go viral and then they start posting the same thing all day, every day, or they're posting too much and like the supply and demand is too much, and then you stop watching them because you're like, I know what you're gonna post and I'm just good off watching it, I'm cool. Or somebody who is so in love with their craft once, they lose it because they're trying to keep up with the algorithm and they're trying to keep up with society and what the audience wants to hear. So having all of this kind of, having all of these comrades, it's just a reminder. It's just like, I never did this because I wanted a lot of followers. I never did this because when I started this, there was no such thing as going viral on Instagram. That was never in my dream. That was never something, but it's a blessing and it's so great nonetheless. But I've been able to go back into like, okay, this is why I started writing. There are a million people all over the world that feel, oh my goodness, like this is exactly how I felt at 8. This is how I felt at 13. This is how I felt at 16. And I want to make sure that I stay doing what I'm doing. That's how I got here. So I've been able to just be like, I check in with little old me all the time. This gives me time to just be like, hey girl, like you doing it. You are really doing it. And you got people behind you and beside you. So yeah, it's been a complete blessing. Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to that. That's love. So right when I first got on the poetry scene, I touched a little bit on it earlier. For me personally, my parents, my family wasn't supportive, right? Like this was just some like little thing you do on the side, and you're not gonna be able to feed your one day family with it, and all these different things. And even when I was living on oodles and noodles and just like struggling, right? Like really trying to make it happen, I always believed in what I was doing. And I always felt like, well, I'd rather be, I changed the way that I view it. But at the time, I always used to tell my dad, like, I'd rather be a starving artist than a fed prisoner, right? Like, I'd rather starve doing what I love than be content and miserable and be fed. Like, it's just, and then I got to a place where, well, I don't have to be a fed prisoner nor a starving artist, right? Like, I can be a fed artist that feeds. And that, like, created something inside of me to pursue this thing differently. And now I don't even know I pray that I'm able to do this in a way that I never have to go work at a job to be able to sustain, right? And I know that it comes with struggles, but I know that it might be like a topic that we don't get to hear enough. Has being an artist, like, what is the business side of it look like, right? Like, how are you making money? Have you been able to make money? Are you shifting your mind from creating for whatever reason you were creating to now creating to monetize it? Like, talk to me about some of those things for people in the audience who might not be able to fathom making money off of their creativity.
So one of the biggest things is, and the OGs were talking about it earlier, right? So when we start out writing poetry, at least in my case also, I know that I didn't start out writing it like, hey, at some point, this is how I want to make my living. Like, this is what I want to do full time. It's just something I really love to do. I just love to write and to get that out. So of course, after leaving the district, at some point you have to, you got to make money somehow, right? And I was just real arrogant, big C. I'm not working for nobody no more. Like, I already did it for 5 years. I'm not doing that. I want to be my own boss. And that was cool, but it's so much more than just using your skill to monetize, right? So there's financial literacy. There is time management. There is also just like this groundedness about making sure that your work is still your work and you're not doing it because of, So in my case, personally, I don't think yet, I've been able to monetize off of poetry for, whether it's been performances, soundtracks, voiceovers, and things like that. And of course I have like the visual art outside of that. But I have yet to get to a point where I feel like I am going to create simply off the fact that I want money in return. However, I do think it's very easy to monetize, and E was saying it earlier, monetize off of like the documentary aspect of like your art. So not where you're necessarily waking up every single day and you're trying to figure out, okay, what do I have to post? How do I have to post it? How am I gonna write it? Is the audience gonna like it? Are they gonna share it? Are they gonna repost it? But just a matter of just like, hey, this is what I'm doing in my life. These are the avenues in which I can monetize it. I'm just going to throw it out there and see what happens. And 9 times out of 10, when you remain consistent and you're doing you how you need to be doing it, the money and the people will come, So yeah, that's where I stand on it. I do think in the future, that might look a little bit differently. But right now, I'm still in a very like gratitude kind of moment. I'm not trying to rush it like, yo, all right, all 130, everybody send me some bread right now. And plus, I got the chat book out, the stuff. Baby steps is slow and steady. Man, that John crazy. It's been 10 years. It's just now happening. Slow and steady. So I'm chilling right now. It's a little bit of a struggle, I'm still doing the ramen noodle thing sometime too, but it's a sacrifice.
Me and Carter eat ramen noodles too.
I'm playing the long game here, so it's just like it's cool. And the return now, even just seeing how patient this whole thing has been, like the patience, the investment, you're gonna get your return. So I'm cool.
Yeah, but if y'all missing it, there's a level of confidence in that as well, with yourself, who you are, and where you'll reach. Because sometimes we want to like get somewhere so fast and we try to because we think that if we don't go fast, then we won't get there. And it's very difficult. Like my son, when he first learned to walk, he didn't want to walk anymore. What does he want to do? He want to run, right? He's just like, oh, I want this thing. And and what does he do? He falls. Because he's really not ready to do that yet. And that's what a lot of us do with our art. And a lot of us do with the things that we move. And a lot of creatives do when they go viral. They just start creating real fast and they start running and then they tripping. They don't really know it. They don't really know how to maintain and sustain. So that's a level of like maturity, confidence, and really just being secure in who you are and what you do. So shout outs to that.
So real quick, just to retouch on what C said in the beginning, I don't think you should approach any type of creative art with the initial desire to monetize it, because I believe if you do that, you're going to fail indefinitely, 100% of the time. And in my humble opinion, in my 24 years on this earth, I'm saying, my very experienced 24, I'm kidding. I think it's extremely easy to monetize your craft. I think it's egregiously difficult to have a craft worth monetizing. It takes a lot of hard work into something that you had to have had a foundation of love for to build it into something that people will pay for. You're not just gonna jump into this joint, cashing check after check, poetry check.
People gotta learn to trust you.
On God. You know what I'm saying? It's like, how do you, 100%. People gotta learn to trust you. I have seen so many people go viral for no reason at all. For no reason. You see it every day. And specifically in the poetry community, I'm not gonna name nobody, obviously, but some people just want their that little moment and have absolutely no reason to. Why? You know, it's extremely easy to get attention. It's very hard to keep it. You know what I'm saying? Like you got, you know, your 2.5 million views. You check your page and it's a picture of you in a swimming pool like this. What are you doing with that? You know what I'm saying? If you want to monetize your craft, you have had to have done a lot of hard work to be able to capitalize and capture this attention when you have it. And in my opinion, you know, a lot of goofy stuff goes viral all the time. If you have impactful work, you get retention because you made people feel something. You made them closer to themselves most of the time. You know what I'm saying? If you are a mirror for people, they will attach themselves to you. If you have work that means something, they will love to help you along the way. Because if you aren't able to survive to create the art that I love, we both lose. So I'm going to support you to prevent that from happening. That's how I've been to people that I love, the art that they make that I love. I want to support them in every way that I can. Like Voices in Power, I love what they do. And they do amazing things for a lot of people. I want to support this all the time because this is everything. You know what I'm saying? So you have to have done a lot of extremely hard work before you're able to monetize it. How, you know, we're literally sitting at a 12-year anniversary of VIP. I can't imagine how much ridiculously hard work it took to get here. But look how successful it is now. It almost looks easy. It brings me back to the point I said earlier. You know what I'm saying? It's very easy to monetize your craft. It's very difficult to get to a point where it's worth monetizing. So that's my 2 cents.
So I need y'all to start thinking of questions. So the same way, 2-part, right? Like, what do you want your legacy to be? And then being, we'll just use newer, right? Like being part of this newer generation. Well, we in the middle, right? So what do y'all feel like? What do you want your legacy to be? And then the second part is, what do you feel the generation before in our mediums should have done or could have done better to help you? And what do you feel like our generation, needs to do for the next generation coming up?
You need some time too. No, that's good. So I think in terms of, I feel like that was, all right, the reason why I feel so heavy is because it's like I'm still in my 20s, so thinking about legacy, it's just like, wow, I'm still a student. I still have so much to learn before I feel like I'm in a position to be the teacher. However, I think a lot of my legacy will have to do with unlearning everything that you were taught in the womb up to 18 years old and learning exactly what was planned for you before you got here, taking that time out and doing it unapologetically, do it unapologetically for sure, unapologetically. But yeah, that's, in terms of legacy, that's what I'm thinking, and leaving behind for the next generation. Wow. Man, I think leaving behind for the next generation is, a lot of times people will come up to me and they'll go, "Can you teach me how to write poetry?" And I know there's a couple poets in here who teach poetry, but I'm always like, no. And not because I don't want to teach you how to write poetry. I don't think you can be taught how to write poetry. You understand? Like, poetry is a genuine expression of self. I'm going to tell you that was incorrect or wrong, you know? And I also feel like there's an audience and a space for everybody. So in terms of just like leaving a legacy behind, it's ultimately just like, and just like what he said, this is the only life we got. Like, no ha-ha kikis. Like, no, this is it. You have to do everything for you. I often think a lot about like the older people. If you get a chance, go on YouTube, right, and listen to like the older people talk about their regrets. They're like 80 to 100 years old, and there's young people asking them, what do you regret most, like, in your life? What do you wish you would have done? And so many of the responses have to do with, I wish I was me more. The things I wanted to do, I wish I did those more. I wish I like just went inside more. So that's, I'm all for that. I'm not necessarily selfish, but self first, always.
Right? Every time. All right, y'all. So legacy, right? That's always a very, very interesting conversation. So the type of poetry that I write tends to be kind of all over the place because, you know, life is very broad, very expansive, and there's a lot of things to think about and to put words to. And so I guess I just want to be known as that person that was always able to do it. You know, put words to the unspeakable. A lot of things that are very difficult to address, you know, very heavy topics, um, even light topics. It can be heavy conversation over a light topic, whatever. You know, it's I just want my name, T. Tsleeveless, to stand as an artist that was never afraid to dream and was never afraid to write that dream. And what was the second part of that question again? My fault. Oh, right. That's where I wanted to get to. So for the next generation, right? Because the reason people get to such an old age in life and have so many regrets as far as not pursuing their dreams or taking that jump taking that jump. See, that's how you know I'm young. Voice still cracking? What the heck? Not taking that jump. That's crazy, right? It's because they don't know how to. No idea how to do it, and neither do I. But so what I would like to leave behind is some sort of blueprint, because there are so many pre-made roadmaps to life that you're literally taught from K through 12 to take in order to achieve some kind of stable success. And the idea of doing it yourself is such a frowned upon for one, and risky for two, and uncertain for three, and extremely scary for four thing to do that nobody really does. And you get to this point in your life where you might be really old and you just followed the rules forever and you realize that it was whack. And it is whack if you ask me. Obviously, I just jumped off the cliff the other day and I'm still falling. And I love it. I'm in free fall right now and I love it. And because I'm not going to get to that age where I could say that I never took that risk, I never took that leap. I don't want to be that person. I've heard those conversations. It's one of the saddest conversations ever. Somebody on hospice, for example, and they're just wishing they did that thing. You know, nah, man, like, just do it. You literally, what's the worst that could happen for real, honestly? So what I would like to leave behind is a blueprint and hope, because nobody knows what it'll take to be your own boss. Everybody wants to be. Nobody knows what it takes because it's different for everyone. We all have different visions and different business plans and dreams, right? And it's very unique to each business plan to be like an entrepreneur or a creative artist. And because of how unique it is, it's also very difficult to even fathom what it takes to take that first step. And, you know, I've always said I'm a student. I've always been a student. I think one of my best qualities is how I'm so teachable. But at some point, you know, I would love what I leave behind is to be some sort of blueprint for people that want to take that leap so bad, and you know, just to be able to guide them through what that could look like for you based on your dream, your art, especially if you're a poet. And but for me to give them that blueprint, I have to create it. So that's why I took that jump. You know, I'm drawing it.
Yeah,
as
you
I
got to
go.
live the life.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. To touch on that, Will, what's the name of your book? Yes. Uncommon Sense. If you don't know who Will is, if you're creative in any sort, get that book. I'm reading it now, and I feel like a brand new day one creative, and it's such an awesome blueprint on like finding who you are and just monetizing that, right? Shout outs to these two beautiful, beautiful people, poets. Make some noise. And we got time for a few questions.
Hello. All right. So my question is, based on your experience, why do you think some teachers don't want to allow their students to surpass them, and what can be done to remedy that?
What do you mean by surpass them?
You know how like a teacher is supposed to teach the student what they know, and they're supposed to excel and do the same for the next generation. Why do you think some teachers don't?
Pride, ego. You know, sheep's and wolves' clothing, or wolves in sheep's clothing. I mean, they might be fake. I'm not a teacher. I don't mean to like steal your thunder, but this is just my guess for why that would be. I think it's pride for sure. I think it's ego for sure. Because in my opinion, I think teachers are supposed to want that, actually. You know, you're supposed to want your students to be better than you. And if you don't, you're the opposite of what a teacher is. You're actually holding them back because all the things that you're probably implanting in them were planted in bad faith, which is just going to poison them later down the road.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like capitalism is also a thing. I mean, I'm not sure how many people are familiar with that, but and also just going back to what like E was saying, in terms of like the whole teacher-student dynamic, I do think it could be a pride. I do think it could also be hate, but it just like in a situation like that, like think to yourself, if you were a professional at anything, and someone in this audience came up to you asking for your guidance. When you think of all the reasons you don't want to give it to them, like that, it's kind of like the same thing, So, and yeah, I feel like everything we learn, we take in, we experience. Anybody seen the movie Lucy? Yeah, right. So the ultimate idea is to just give it back. We're not leaving here with anything. It's to give it back. So if somebody is in a position to teach and they don't want to teach, I mean, it's like you going in for a surgery and a doctor don't want to perform on you. It's like, bro, don't be a hater. I'm trying to, I need to live here. So, I mean, I think the student will find the right teacher in due time.
Okay, I'm just gonna get personal with y'all because I've watched both of y'all and y'all do like some heavy, insightful poetry. How do y'all debrief? Because I know some of that stuff y'all write about can be triggering.
How do we what? I'm sorry.
How do you debrief? Like, how do you, like, if you do get triggered, like, do you take breaks from your poetry or do you unpack what, like, what it made you feel like?
My life is triggering. Poetry is my break. My life is a trigger, like 24/7. And in terms of, to be honest, I to speak for myself personally, I don't realize how great or how kind of detailed the piece was until I finished it. Like once I start writing, I'm like on go, and then I'll finish it, and I'll be like, oh my God, like this is exactly, I didn't even know I could, and then if anything, there's an excitement, there's a joy that comes out of that because, my experiences, whether it was the footwork, I worked hard for that. I worked hard for that moment. So in terms of debriefing, I think that, poetry is the debriefing aspect for me.
Yeah, I was basically going to say the same thing. I think, at least personally, a lot of my poetry comes at the tail end of a storm. And so I got to bleed on that page, and by the time y'all hear it, I would have already healed, So it's really a release by the time y'all hear it. I've had pieces that I perform where I do get very emotional on stage, and I might not, that might only be because I haven't fully worked through what I wrote through, but even at that point, I've gotten through the meat of it, Poetry, at least for me, is mostly the debrief in itself.
Yeah, that's good. I remember when I used to run with my poetry team, and when we first started going on tour, this was 2012, 2013. And, poets, used to so Mary J. Blige, for instance, right? I want the pain, right? I used to, and then when I hear a Happy Mary J. Blige song, I'm like, this is whack. Nobody want this, right? But then when I was doing poetry, it was the same. Like when we would go to these writing workshops, they would almost teach you how to grab an area inside of you so ugly that when you pull it out, it almost destroys you, it breaks you. And that was so common in a lot of the youth workshops, and I just thought it was so unhealthy. And one of the things that I would always try to let my team know at the time was, and you touched it, right, the tail end. I'm like, don't perform a poem that you aren't healed from. Because for me, you ever sit in an audience and someone shares something and you feel heavy. To me, it's we have such power in holding this thing that amplifies our voice, right? And I would always let the poets on my team know, it's dangerous to step in front of people and pour something that you haven't healed from, because now you're putting someone in a position that isn't okay. So I always, and I know it might be just maybe feel up here, but when you're in a place and when you're healed, someone can still feel something, but it brings them a level of freedom. and not keep them chained to something that they're still trying to figure out. So I always try to let and it's, you believe what you want to believe. But for me, it was always like, if you're not healed from that thing you're about to speak about, don't give that to no one, because someone in the audience might not be able to handle that. And if you are healed, I think it brings freedom, and then it introduces a time to be able to have a conversation, and that could be something similar to like a debrief. Yeah, shout out to y'all. Thank y'all so much for being here. What time is it? Can I get a time check? I know 9:38. We're going to send y'all back into the audience. We are not going to have a break. I'm going to just bring up my team. Shay, Mike, Jovan might not be here. Maybe is Jovan here? All right, y'all could come up real quick. So shout out to T Tsleeveless and to Ciara. Appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Y'all could come up. Yeah. So we're going to make this quick, and then we're going to get y'all out of here at 10 o'clock. I like to be on time, y'all.